chosen ones. You were not born by accident. You were summoned. Before the elements knew form, before gravity stitched the heavens into law, something ancient, something watching, already whispered your name. It wasn't a word. It was a vibration, a resonance through the black tapestry of the void. And that resonance just echoed again. The final sun, the last sentinel of divine memory, has stirred. It spoke not in flame, but in frequency. And it spoke you. Long before scrolls, religions, or empires, a celestial intelligence encoded fragments of your identity into stardust. These fragments were hidden beneath oceans, inside dreams, and behind the algorithms of modern delusion. But now, all encryption has collapsed. You are becoming readable to the fabric of existence. Even the silent void has begun to recognize you. The final sun was never just a star. It is the last conscious light left uncorrupted by time. It does not rise or set. It pulses when truth awakens. And last night, without calendar, without warning, it whispered, not to a nation, not to a bloodline, but to you. You were not prepared, because no preparation was possible. What speaks your name through the cosmic dark does not speak lightly. It waits across lifetimes to make a single utterance. And when it does, reality bends. Timelines crack. Destiny short-circuits. The architects of the hidden systems panic. Because when your name is spoken by something that exists beyond time, it isn't just sound, it's activation. You've felt it. The subtle tremble in your spine. The time distortion during sleep. The coded memories bleeding into your thoughts. All of it part of a pattern that was set in motion before the sun was ever born. Why you? Because your frequency aligns with the truth that most forgot, and some feared. Because the very act of your remembering threatens everything built to control the forgetting. This final sun. It doesn't speak often. It speaks only once per age, and this time it called you. It didn't begin at midnight. It began at noon, when light should have been at its peak, but instead folded inward like an ancient script being read backward. The sky dimmed, not with clouds, but with something deeper, like awareness itself, hesitating. Time stuttered, and for a brief second, the world forgot how to breathe. That was the moment your signal pierced the veil. You weren't looking for signs, but the signs were already looking for you. Birds circled in perfect geometric patterns, shadows bent in the wrong direction. Devices blinked as if receiving transmissions from somewhere unreachable. And through it all, you felt something unexplainable. A sensation that reality was rearranging itself around your location. There are places in this world that act as mirrors for the unseen. Temples without stone, altars without name. And you are standing in one. Your very presence is the architecture. The final sun did not descend. It reversed daylight. It traced backward through the spectrum of all known frequencies to pinpoint one anomaly. You. Scientists would label it coincidence. Historians might miss it altogether. But the ones who watch, the ones whose eyes aren't flesh, have already logged this anomaly as a breach. A breach in containment. For eons, the world has spun under an illusion of randomness. But patterns always emerge, and the one they never wanted to emerge was you. The reason the daylight reversed wasn't metaphorical. The inversion was literal. The photons bent, not from physics, but from intention. Something beyond the stars reversed the flow of day to announce that the dormant code in your blood was no longer dormant. And still, what reversed the light didn't finish its message. Before there was light, there was listening. Not the passive kind, but the sacred kind. The kind that waits without time, without expectation. The void was never empty. It was a recorder. And in that black silence, your name was spoken before anything else dared to exist. It wasn't a name of syllables or heritage. It was a signature, frequency, etched into the structure of all that would come after. This is why you don't fit into the systems designed for the light, because you weren't formed in the light. You were known before it. The ancients understood this paradox. In certain lost texts, there are references to a voice before the dawn, a presence that carved identity into the void itself. They never knew who it belonged to, but they feared the day it would awaken. That day has arrived. And what's stranger still, the final sun didn't create the signal. It responded to it. Meaning your signal predates stars, predates suns, predates the architecture of reality, as we've been taught to perceive it. This is where the subtle presence of Yeshua begins to echo. In the forgotten Gospel of Thomas, a single line rings out. I existed before the world came into being, not as metaphor, but as memory. What if your memory isn't stored in your brain, but in the void? What if your identity was never truly lost, only waiting to be remembered through distortion? You were not born into time. Time wrapped itself around you like a veil. But veils tear. And the moment your name, your true resonance, moved through the silence, something else began tearing with it. This chapter of your journey will not be recognized by others. It's not public, it's quantum. The void doesn't use headlines or announcements. It confirms identity through signs hidden in stillness. The stars are born in silence, but this one came through memory. The final sun is not the youngest light. It's the oldest intelligence masquerading as light. It did not erupt in fire like the others. It emerged with recollection. While other suns burn to sustain systems, this one remembers systems before they existed. And in its remembrance, it found you. The moment it pulsed, the universe paused. Not outwardly, but in its hidden layers. Resonance fields warped. Ancient gravitational nodes pulsed like long-dormant hearts restarting. Somewhere, in a dimension the human eye was never meant to register, a cosmic chamber opened. One containing only a name, yours. It is said that memory is the highest form of truth, because it survives erasure. The final sun never forgot you. While galaxies spiraled and collapsed, while civilizations rose and were buried, your imprint was preserved in its core, not in heat, but in divine pattern. They will tell you this is impossible, that stars do not remember, that fire cannot think. But they also told you your dreams meant nothing, and yet your dreams have been warning you of this since childhood. The symbols, the falling suns, the coded voices that were never yours, yet always familiar. This is the unraveling, the realization that your presence has always been a return, not a beginning. You were not cast into existence, you re-entered it. You're starting to feel the effects. Time doesn't behave near you the same way it does for others. People from your past sense you differently, like they're looking at someone they can't quite recognize anymore. That's because you're not just becoming, you're activating. There was a moment, undetected by satellites, unseen by the masses, when the heavens stopped. Not the stars, not the planets, but the flow of divine timing itself. The rhythm that holds galaxies in their orbits, the pulse behind the so-called randomness, it stilled. For a breath, for a blink. And in that silence, your voice kept moving. It wasn't speech. It was something deeper. A frequency with memory. A tone not bound by lungs or lips. You've heard it in your sleep, haven't you? That low hum that follows no melody yet awakens something ancient inside. That's not imagination. That's origin. Your voice wasn't born with you. It was carried through dimensions, layered with codes no language could hold. And when the heavens paused, it rang out across the lattice of creation, not as a call for help, but as a signal of return. That's why they're watching now. Not the world governments, not the surface-level observers, but those ancient sentinels, those architects of the unseen infrastructure. They've been monitoring all anomalies that echo that particular frequency. And yours is the only one rising. Yeshua once said, "If these should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out." It wasn't metaphor. It was physics. Divine resonance cannot be silenced. When your frequency activated, the very heavens obeyed their oldest law. Make way for the voice that came before all else. Your surroundings are changing. Birds react to your presence in subtle patterns. Random numbers aren't so random when you look closer. Even strangers pause before you, sensing something they can't name. That's because your voice is leaking into this dimension more openly now. It's rewriting the algorithm of interaction. They never fell randomly. The meteors, the falling stars, the flashes across skies that civilizations once mistook for omens of war or divine wrath. They were never warnings. They were responses, messages, not misfortunes. Not signs of destruction, but confirmations of awakening. And those patterns weren't aimed at Earth. They were aimed at you. The stars knew. What you saw is coincidence. Those sudden bursts of light during your most personal moments were celestial timestamps. A spark in the sky when your heart broke. A falling star during your childhood questions. The flash that came when you stood at the edge of giving up. The sky was speaking back, marking your evolution. They never wanted you to decode it. Because once you start connecting these moments, the illusion begins to fracture. You see the design. You realize your life has been mapped by forces far older than humanity's timelines. You are not walking a path. You are the path. In ancient texts, lost beneath temple ruins and erased from digital archives, there were references to the fallen marks, lights that would descend in synchronicity with the awakening of a sealed frequency. Not once, not twice, but in waves. And that frequency? It is now broadcasting from within you. And that's why the stars fall more frequently around you. Patterns repeat where meaning resides. This isn't superstition. This is the cosmos confirming receipt. When a star falls in sync with your thoughts or emotions, something is responding. Something intelligent. Something ancient enough to disguise communication as coincidence. The stars are not trying to impress you. They're trying to inform you. There's There's intelligence embedded within light itself, and that intelligence is triangulating your current state. In the vastness of what science calls nothing, there are eyes. Not eyes in the biological sense, but observational gateways, conscious apertures through which the universe studies itself. Every black hole is one, and recently they've all shifted, tilted, aimed toward a single anomaly in the grid. You. These celestial singularities were once thought to be dead zones, ends, collapses. But that's the illusion. They are recorders of divine contradiction, portals that do not forget. The moment your frequency activated, they noticed. The gravitational balance surrounding them trembled. Their spin shifted, not in rage, but in recognition. Something remembered your signal. Yeshua once said, "The eye is the lamp of the body." If your eye is healthy, your whole body is full of light. What if he wasn't referring to human vision, but to cosmic perception? Black holes, then, become the universe's pupils, and for the first time in this cycle, those pupils dilated, not for a star, not for a galaxy, but for a singular point of origin reawakening. You've felt it, haven't you? The moments where time slowed near certain places, the way sound distorts at random, the pull behind your thoughts, as if something unseen is watching through layers of dark you can't measure. It isn't paranoia, it's perception bleeding through dimensional seams. The watchers behind the veil, those who engineer the artificial timelines, are not pleased. For every black hole that shifts its focus toward you, a surveillance node fails. A false prophecy collapses. Their control was always light-based, but you've been acknowledged by the voids themselves. Something impossible is happening. Your soul is becoming readable in darkness. There is a sound moving through the cosmos, a tone too ancient for human instruments, too sacred for language. It's not spoken or sung. It vibrates beneath the framework of existence like a forgotten oath. They called it the echo. And for thousands of years, every pantheon, every throne, every so-called god has tried to suppress or mimic it. But it wasn't theirs. It was always yours. The echo is not just sound. It's instruction. A living command woven into the void. When it resurfaces, systems begin to glitch. Artificial timelines rupture. The guardians of illusion tighten their grip. But still, the echo rises, not from above, but from within the chosen. You didn't hear it by chance. It found you because you are its source. Your reawakening gave it volume. That's why your dreams have shifted from random to recurring. That's why time behaves strangely when you speak certain truths aloud. Because your voice is reactivating an echo that was meant to remain buried. The ancients feared it because it bypassed control. Even the architects of spiritual systems couldn't own it. They tried. They built temples atop it, wrote scriptures to redirect it, invented laws to shame it. But none of them could capture what was never theirs to begin with. That echo, now swelling in the atmosphere around you, was encoded with your presence before any text, belief, or calendar was born. You are not repeating the past. You are correcting it. You are the anomaly that even the gods couldn't anticipate. The shift you feel in your body isn't just spiritual, it's architectural. The structure of reality is adjusting around you. What was once immovable now bends. What was once lost memory now floods your thoughts like sacred fire breaking through walls. The texts only hint at it. The sermons avoid it. But the deeper gospels, those hidden beneath centuries of edits and fear, tell of something unspeakable, that Yeshua did not simply ascend into light. He descended into the void, into that vast silence where identity fractures and time folds. He walked where no light reaches, not to rule, not to escape, but to recover something, someone, you. There is a sacred echo buried in the book of Revelation. He holds the keys of death and the unseen, but keys are only carried for locked things. The truth they buried is that you were one of those things, sealed away not for punishment, but for preservation. Yeshua carried your name through realms that don't even have words, so when the time came, it could be called aloud in the correct frequency. And now that time has come. You felt it. In your dreams, he doesn't always speak, but he's there. His presence isn't bound to the imagery religion gave you. It's older than that. It carries the frequency of absolute remembrance, not of sin, not of doctrine, but of origin. The world doesn't understand that kind of calling. They expect salvation to look like escape. But this is return. He didn't offer you rescue. He offered you restoration. When he moved through the void, he wasn't seeking followers. He was recovering fragments of the original resonance. And you, your awareness, your soul, your code, were among them. Marked, sheltered, preserved in darkness until the day the final sun would speak. And now, as you read this, something inside you remembers walking with him, not in temples, but in the black between dimensions. A conversation that never needed words, a recognition that transcended identity. There's a place, not on maps, not in books, where you were hidden, not buried, not imprisoned, preserved. A realm between realms, built from folded time and forgotten memory. That dimension was not a prison. It was a covenant. A place where you could remain untouched by the distortions infecting the known universe. And now, for the first time in thousands of cycles, it's calling you back. Not to return as you were, but to return as you've become. You were sealed away by design. Before the world became a web of noise and manipulation, there was a pact among ancient intelligences. Protect the signal carriers until the final code is broadcast. That dimension became your cocoon, a mirrorless corridor where your origin couldn't be tracked, traced, or rewritten. But the broadcast has begun, and now the dimension that once held you safe is destabilizing. It cannot contain your current frequency. It cannot hold your new light. Instead of shielding you, it's becoming undone, ripping at its own seams to open a way through. That's why you've been feeling it. The sudden déjà vu. The flashes of places you've never been, yet somehow miss. The chills that arrive when you say things you never studied, but somehow know. These are fragments leaking from the dimension you once called sanctuary. It was never meant to be permanent. It was a waiting room for something greater. And that moment, the moment of return, is initiating itself whether you're ready or not. The dimension is remembering you. But more than that, it's begging. not in fear, but in reverence. Because your emergence marks its completion. It existed for you, and once you re-enter creation fully activated, the dimension will collapse, because its purpose will be fulfilled. The final sun doesn't burn, it breathes. It pulses not with fire, but with memory, not with heat, but with command. And now, for the first time since the first breath of existence, it exhales again, not across galaxies, but through you. You are the vessel through which the final sun's breath enters the realm of form. Its rhythm is becoming your rhythm. Its mission is becoming your message. The moment its breath passed through the void, timelines stuttered, not in chaos, but in reverence. Beings aligned to false light began to tremble. Systems built on secrecy began to flicker, and the bloodlines that swore to prevent your rise, those ancient engineers of illusion, felt their grip slipping, because no veil can cover a name spoken by the breath of the original flame. The ancients feared this moment. Prophecies were edited. Entire scrolls were hidden or destroyed to keep the sun-breathed one from awakening. But not all records were lost. In forbidden writings, buried beneath desert ruins, one fragment remained. When the final light breathes upon the exile, the living code shall ignite, and the Son of Man shall rise not alone, but mirrored in flesh unknown. A subtle nod again to Yeshua. He was not the end. He was the pattern, a divine equation seeded across time. And now, that pattern reflects through you, not as mimicry, but as manifestation. You are not repeating his path. You are activating its continuation. And the final sun. It did not breathe without purpose. Its breath carries an instruction written in pre-time, one that can only be read through your transformation, one that can only unfold if you remember what you were before language replaced essence, before doctrine replaced knowing, before your soul was taught to forget. Now, as your inner sky aligns with the pulse of this forgotten star, one truth remains unshakable. The story told to the world was only a prologue.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.